Hello and welcome. I am super excited to share what I think of as a fun, creative, self-exploratory writing practice. And of course, we're going to use cards. I'm going to be using Oracle deck for this. And I was inspired based on reading one of the exercises or practices in this book called The Lab, experiments and writing across genres. I find a lot of inspiration in terms of practices and processes that are used for writing because I like things that maybe provide more of like a non-linear and exploratory approach to self-exploration. Okay, so that's kind of the background for this practice. And the idea here is to use imagery or uh, keywords from the oracle cards. Some oracle cards have keywords on them in some way to start to unlock memories and associations and meaning, a sense of meaning that might not surface through direct like reflection. And so it's a process that we're kind of going through. So the first step is to randomly draw a card. So I'm just going to randomly draw one of my oracle cards to kind of demonstrate how this process would look. So I pulled clock. And once you have your card, just kind of notice the theme of it, notice the imagery, the symbols, the colors, the keyword on it. Don't analyze it too much. Just kind of maybe noticing like a more general life theme that it evokes, right? So kind of just looking, at this card, just top of mind for me. Again, I'm not thinking about it too much. Things about maybe like phases, cycles, the morning routines, time, time passing. Um, I don't know. Lots of different things could come up just from this. These also look like little umbrellas to me, and the yellow looks like the sun. So I mean, they're vacation, right? Time, how we spend our time on vacation versus when we're in our non-vacation life. So lots of just different idea generating phase, but really kind of just coming up with some different themes, and then really settling in on one broad category of experience to work with and explore. And then once you have that broad category that you want to work with, the next part is generating 5 highly specific scenes that are personal to you, or that are something that you're interested in kind of exploring in a little bit of a deeper way. And at this point, you're not really going into super like detail or not writing like paragraphs yet. But they should really kind of be very specific moments or places or experiences that fit into the theme that you chose. So maybe, just a word or just jotting down a little bit about, who was there, where this memory took place, what was happening, what it felt like to you, kind of just thinking about them as like little snapshots, not, general ideas. We have the general theme, and now we're starting to get a little bit more specific, right? So, not just a vague entry like, morning routines, but maybe something a little bit concrete about it, about what that, a specific experience, which can, look different for everyone. Maybe it was like, listening to the radio one morning while I was drinking my coffee, and the exact song that, my dad used to play on road trips, came on. And I happened to be missing him a lot. I mean, that's, kind of an example, just kind of a little bit of context, really, I guess. Thinking about the time of life that you were in, the location, who was involved, and really like that emotional tone. Now, that is a part that can be difficult for people for a variety of reasons, right? Kind of just like I don't know, like what kind of scene, maybe some analysis paralysis. So I like to think about scaffolding and making steps, or adding in some steps that could make it a little bit more manageable. So if that's you and you're like, okay, I have my theme, but I don't know how to narrow it down. I don't know work on or write about, this next part is for you. So again, thinking about pulling from different areas of your life. So maybe you might kind of think about whatever your theme is and kind of scanning through, like, is there a childhood memory? Something from when you were a teenager, something from early adulthood. Is there a recent experience that you had? Maybe a place that you traveled, a moment from work or school, an interaction with a stranger or with a friend or a family member. Maybe it was something that happened, a moment in nature or with an animal, a moment that was really difficult for you, or maybe just a moment of, joy or unexpected surprise in some way. So kind of just scanning through your memory in terms of thinking of those categories. Um, and then when you have it and kind of what to maybe think about, adding a little bit of context, right? Because we're not going deep yet. That's kind of in the, what, as we dive into more of the exploratory process, thinking about where you were, maybe what season it was, something that you could see or hear or smell or touch, maybe who else was present, or maybe like the emotion that was the strongest for you. Just kind of adding in maybe one sensory detail, right? So like it was, it was really cold. Okay. And then that kind of like can precipitate some more little notes or details, right? And again, the idea here, this isn't a memory test, right? So you don't need to have like perfect recollection of something. Just kind of writing the first, few five, right? We're going for five scenes that appear. And yeah, so even if it seems really small, like let go of judgment, just get five down, right? Another way to think about it, if you're still kind of struggling to find those five, is to kind of mentally travel through time. So thinking about the earliest memory that you can think of connected to the theme, or maybe a memory from like the middle of your life journey, and then maybe like a recent memory connected to this theme, right? Maybe thinking about different environments, so ideas related to the theme that happen indoors versus outdoors at night, maybe one while you were traveling, one while you were at home, and then one that was maybe somewhere unexpected. And then if you're still really stuck and struggling to come up with these five little like memory kernels, think about a dream that you had, maybe, or a symbolic or an imagined scene, or just like a story like moment that seems intriguing to you that you would be interested in exploring further, right? So that's kind of this whole process that we're going through is really working out of an associative process, and I'll talk about that at the end. And then finally, if you're still listening and you still are staring at a blank page, go ahead and set a timer for 60 seconds and just rapidly make a list. Just quickly jot down any scenes that appear. Don't worry about detail. And just do that for 60 seconds. What comes up for you when you think about this broader theme that you're exploring? From that list, just pick five. There is no, like, the idea there is to really just kind of like really let go of that pressure to like quote unquote get it right. Okay. So at this point so far, we pulled an oracle card. From the oracle card, we have this broad theme. From this broad theme, we have five topics that are more personal to us. Hopefully there's a little bit of context, a little bit of sensory detail. So now we move into timed writing rounds, and you'll be writing about each of these scenes multiple times in the process that I'm going to go over now. So you're going to write in the order that you listed them. Round one is going to be 2 minutes each. So you're going to set a timer and you're going to write about the first scene for exactly 2 minutes. The timer goes off. Even if you're mid-sentence, you immediately move on to the second scene. And so you do that for all 5 scenes. So that should take about 10 minutes or so. Well, it should take 10 minutes plus or minus whatever you do in your transitions. Round 2 is 3 minutes. So you go back to scene 1, continue writing where you left off, set the timer for 3 minutes. When that timer goes off, even if it's mid-sentence, you move on to the second scene and you go through that process of 3 minutes, immediately stop, transition, for all 5 of your scenes. You do it again for a third round, the same process, 4 minutes each, and then the final round, the same process, 5 minutes per scene. So you might notice that as that time is increasing, the writing can often become like more detailed, maybe more like emotionally rich, more associative, more symbolic. And the idea here is not to be worrying about grammar or structure, just kind of following the thread, just kind of getting into this very expansive flow. Once you're done with all of that, put it away. Just put that writing away, let it breathe, maybe a few hours, possibly a day, maybe a week. Some time should pass. Okay, and then going back and rereading what you wrote with a sense of curiosity, looking at it a little bit slowly, and maybe looking for things like repeating images or themes or patterns or motifs in your writing, emotional threads, maybe a surprising connection that comes up for you that you notice that happens between the different scenes, or any phrases that you wrote that feel especially powerful or poetic. And, kind of just seeing what happens, right? This is very experimental, kind of seeing maybe do these pieces kind of form this larger story, this larger reflection, and maybe kind of either using what you wrote or seeing if, with some little adjustments or some tweaks, it could actually become something that's actually very cohesive, almost like you're braiding together these different strands and these different ideas to either, come up with some kind of a reflective personal essay, or maybe like a personal myth or a poem, or just kind of like a narrative about this theme that really seems to like weave its way through your life. Or maybe it's just kind of like a creative collage of scenes, right? And the idea here is it really kind of, the spine of it was really that oracle card or tarot card or whatever you pulled. And it's kind of like this like connecting piece that everything else kind of formed around, right? That's kind of how we started. So that's just I think it's fun. I think it's a really creative, exploratory process that uses some specific processes and principles that underlie it, right? It's not just one process, and I think the synergy from these different elements really make it powerful. So one is symbolic activation, right? That's the imagery. We're letting the imagery, we're letting the word, what it symbolizes, a metaphor, whatever it is, activate our inner processes of creativity. And then we're moving into association, right? We're generating this list based on our memories that we associate to that oracle card, to those elements of the oracle card. That's our list of those 5 scenes, right? Next, we move into timed free writing, where we're just writing. We're not overthinking, we're not stopping, we're not pausing to correct, right? And that process, that like kind of getting into that flow state, bypasses overthinking. The inner critic is shut down. We're just kind of letting things emerge, and like there's no real, I don't want to say there's no real control, but we're not like gatekeeping that process. We're just kind of like letting things emerge naturally, right? And then there's a delayed reflection. We're kind of like stepping back. Maybe, things happen in the meantime. We come back to it. We're in a different frame of mind. And that kind of allows us to see what stands out to us, to see what has surfaced. And the idea here is to discover that, the oracle card, the ideas, what you wrote, what you created, like without really intentionally, it actually mirrors something quite meaningful in your story for you personally. And that's really kind of the beauty and what I really think of as the magic of a process like this is kind of we just kind of set out to see what happens, to go exploring, and something really powerful and potent emerges. So if you try this, I would, please put in the chat, what that was like for you. Did you end up writing like a myth or a poem, or what kind of shape did your piece take? What oracle card you chose to explore, like the big theme. And please absolutely be sure to subscribe to my channel for more very expansive self-exploratory processes for personal growth.